Hello everyone, welcome back. So today I'm going to do a conclusion video on the test that I had done to see if a partially cocked Glock can ignite a primer from that half-cocked position. Okay, so I've had about 2 weeks to think about it, and I've drawn a few conclusions I want to share with you guys. So for those of you that don't know, when you rack the slide, the gun is basically half cocked, or about 58% cocked, and then when you pick up that slack, you're completing the cocking action. Okay, I kind of assumed that for a long time I had assumed that all striker fired guns kind of worked that way, right? So to me, a gun was either it was either like a 1911, which was like single action, or it was like a double action, single action, right? Or double action only, or in the case of most of these plastic polymer guns, I kind of assumed that they all followed that Glock action trigger system with the half cock, only because like Glock was like one of the first to build these plastic striker fired guns, and I had heard that a lot of companies were copying them, so I kind of assumed that like they all copied exactly the same thing. So only recently, right, did I come to learn that that's not the case, and that's it's not the case with the SIG 320. That's kind of like what put this whole thing on my radar, and I started investigating this further. So for a long time, I believed that the Glocks could not fire from that partially cocked position, and then that was an intended safety feature. That's what I believed. It turns out that Glock, I don't think Glock's ever made such a statement. Okay. Other people have. I don't think Glock has actually come out to dispute it. So I think they kind of like kept quiet and just kind of let people talk about it, right? Except because the idea that it has this additional safety feature where it cannot ignite the primer from the half-cocked position is and was appealing to lots of people, including myself. So I think they intentionally stayed quiet on it, and we're happy that, hey, some people believe this, regardless of the fact that it may have not been true. Okay, the reason that I did the tests is because, like I said, for a long time I believed, based on things I had heard, that the Glock could not ignite a primer from that partially cocked position, and as a gun instructor, I had said it many times. I had actually done videos, and I've actually told it to many, like probably thousands of people over the 15 years I've been doing this. I have said this. So I'm like, I need to know. I need to know if what I'm saying is correct or not correct. So there was only one video that I could find on this, of somebody testing this, and they were testing it outside of the gun. Okay. So it was like, okay, I'm not 100% convinced one way or the other, because you're testing, you've set up some type of a device here where you've taken measurements and you're testing it outside the gun, but that's still, again, to me, it was like not 100% convincing. So what I decided to do is defeat the safety mechanisms in the gun, so I could find out the answer to that. And the purpose of this test was specifically to answer that question. Okay, not to prove that the gun is safe or not safe, but to, or better or worse than some other gun, but specifically to answer that question for the sake of answering it. So I'm giving out the right information of whether or not the the primer can be ignited from that half-cocked position. Okay, so if you've seen the videos, what you saw is that the Glock 17, I tested two different Glock 17s. The Glock 17 was igniting the primers from that half-cocked position. I had to basically file down the safety shelf in the housing, and then I removed the safety plunger, right, the firing pin block. I removed it, and then basically I took since the shelf had been released, I was able to stick a pin or a thin screwdriver in the back and push down on the sear and release it from that half-cock position. And now that's, again, we're testing it inside the gun from where that sear and that firing pin normally rest when you're carrying the gun. And then that's how I was able to find the answer to the question that I had. So as it turned out, the Glock 17 in 2 different guns was able to ignite the primer. And then with the Glock 43, and by the way, the Glock 17, they use the same exact size housing, firing pin, trigger mechanism in their 26, in the 17 and the 19, in the 22, which shoots a 40 cal. They all use the same exact size. So the results of the Glock 17 that I did are going to apply to any Glock that has the same size internal parts. Okay, when I tested it with the Glock 43, and again I tested it with 2 different Glock 43s, this did not ignite the primers from that half-cock position. Okay, why did it not? Again, I don't think this is an intended safety feature. I just think it's just the way it works out. And I think the reason is basically the Glock 43 being a lighter gun, small internal parts, has a lighter spring, right? A smaller spring and a smaller, lighter firing pin. So there's probably just less mass hitting that primer. Now, when I look at the primers, right, in the case of the Glock 43 that had not ignited from that half-cock position, to me, they look indented exactly the same way as the one in the Glock 17 that had ignited. So I think we're talking about like a razor-thin margin between what will ignite and what won't ignite. In fact, with the Glock 17, I did have a couple of cases where the primers did not ignite. So I think it's like right on that razor's edge. With the Glock 17, they're leaning towards igniting. With the Glock 43, because of the lighter firing pin, lighter spring, they're leaning on the side of not igniting. I would bet that if because I only tested it with about like 2 guns, I might have done something like 5 or 6 primers with each. I would guess, I would expect that if I repeated the test 100 times, I would probably get some ignitions in the Glock 43. Okay, probably. Okay. But in the cases that I tested, I did not get any ignitions with the Glock 43, whereas with the Glock 17, I did mostly get ignitions. And like I said earlier, Glock has never stated that the primers could not ignite from that half-cock position. So what does this mean? It means that even like with the Glock 43, the fact that they didn't ignite in my test, they could ignite. I don't think that the gun was designed. I don't think that was designed or intended to be a safety feature of the gun, right? The intended safety features of the gun, basically are your trigger safety, right? Or that safety shelf, right, where that sear actually has to move back before it can drop, right? It won't drop from that position, and also the internal safety plunger or the firing pin block. I do like the fact that like hold on, let me open this up. I do like how in the block design the firing pin lug is like way back here, right, and the safety plunger is way up here. That's your firing pin block, so it's all the way in the front. They're completely separate mechanisms, right? On the SIG 320, they're basically contained into the firing pin, and they're all in the back. And if you notice in the back here, this is a much more open area. So I do like the Glock design where they have it completely separate and up front, far away from this opening back here, which is naturally going, because it's open, it's going to collect more dirt, lint, etc. So I do like the Glock design better, okay? And I've shot the SIG 320 many times. I did a review of it recently. I did the test where basically you pick up the slack, wiggle it. I mean, I couldn't get it to drop, okay? So I know there's a couple of videos out there of people having picked up the slack, they wiggle it, and it drops. I think that's basically just like factory defect. I mean, I think that's like the exception. Normally, it won't. Without going into the SIG 320, right? Because that's, like I said, I've covered that in the video. And by no means, let's put it this way, I'm not a SIG 320 expert. I haven't built SIG 320s. I mean, I've seen how the internals are supposed to work on that. But again, having not built it, I don't know for sure. With the Glock, I have built many Glocks, right? Assembled them, you know, basically completed the frames. So I would say I'm a Glock expert or Glock clone expert because I just have built so many. Okay, I built so many that again I have the confidence to carry one because it's not just that I built it, but I'm able to, you know, sit here and test these guns every day, and I have fire. You know, I'm typically going to fire somewhere in the area of 500 rounds before I start carrying the gun. So the conclusion of this, right? The fact that, you know, okay, fine, the Glock can ignite a primer from that partially cocked position. Does it make the gun any less safe? No. I mean, I don't think that's the case at all. Otherwise, I wouldn't continue to carry it. But you know, it does, you know, for once and for all, end this myth. Okay, because it is a myth that the Glock cannot fire from that, you know, cannot ignite a primer from that partially cocked position. Okay? You know, I've tested it inside of the gun by defeating those safety mechanisms, and we can say that that is a myth. However, I continue to carry a Glock style gun. It does not make the gun less safe. Okay, but at least we know the facts now, right? Instead of, you know, I think from this point forward, and I think my videos have gotten enough circulation that from this point forward, I don't think anybody is ever going to say and believe that the Glock cannot ignite the primer from that half-cocked position. Okay, so I'm going to include the main parts of the test that I did, so you can see them if you haven't seen the first one. So I'm gonna basically clip that, you know, those parts onto the back end of this video. Okay, so drop some comments. It helps push the algorithm. Talk to you all soon. Hey, hello everyone. Today we're going to be testing if the Glock 17 can ignite a primer from the partially cocked position. I already did this test last week with the Glock 43 that passed. I did this test earlier with my Glock 17 P80 that I built. It failed. Okay, it failed. So since that was entirely aftermarket Glock Gen 3 parts, I said, you know what? Let me pull out an original factory Glock 17 and test it out, right? Because, you know, just because my build failed doesn't necessarily mean that a factory Glock will fail. Okay, so I've made a bunch of cases here that have CCI primers. This is the same exact box of primers that I used last week in the Glock 43 that passed. Okay, but that was also an aftermarket build. So what I did with this is now I did have to change out the trigger housing because I had to defeat the safety shelf. Okay, so what I had to do in order to do this test is I had to basically Dremel down the safety shelf here and in here, okay, so that I can stick a pin in there and drop the cruciform off of the, you know, basically drop that sear. Okay, so here we just take a pin, right, without touching the trigger, get on top of the cruciform, right, and you can see how I'm able to activate it, right? So I defeated the safety shelf that Glock normally has in there. Okay, so the other thing that I did is I removed the safety plunger. Okay, so if you look over here, there's no safety plunger and there's no extractor. The reason being because these two kind of hold each other in place. Okay, so the safety plunger is out. Okay. All right, so the only part that's not Glock in here right now is that trigger housing, because I didn't want to mess up the original. I'm going to put the original back in here. So I use an aftermarket trigger housing for the purpose of this test. Make sure I'm still rolling. Yeah, camera's still rolling. Okay, so lock this gun open. I'm gonna take. Oh, there you go. Okay. So we're gonna put that in there. Close it. Okay. Make sure it's all the way forward. Come up to the camera so you can hear the click or the pop, depending on what happens. I get on top of that cruciform and I'm going to push down. No, did not fire. Did not fire. Now, when I did this with the P80 earlier, it did not fire only one time, and then all the other times it set off the primer. So this is not conclusive yet, because this is what my P80 did earlier. Let's. I forgot, there's no extraction here. I gotta get that. So I gotta, there we go. Okay. Oh, this one just got lightly kissed. Let's do this again. So one of the things I've noticed is that in this one, because I did test my my P80 with the safety plunger in there, it didn't ignite it, but it did scratch it. So it might be that the firing pin or the safety plunger is out of spec on that P80. That's why I'm gonna test this a bunch of times now. We'll lock this open. All right, so I'm gonna take another one. Okay. All right, so there's no marks on this. Put it in there. I'm gonna close it. All right, just fully closed. All right, same deal. I'm gonna push down on that cruciform. Oh, that time it set it off. So these are the same exact primers from the same exact box. So that's interesting. So this is the one that just got set off, next to the one that wasn't set off. All right, so both of them being light primer strikes. So it seems to be like right on the edge, where sometimes they'll set them off and sometimes it won't. I forgot which is which. I don't know, because they both have light primer strikes on it. So I can't tell which one of those is the dead one and which one of those is still alive. So let's put another one in here. I think it's possibly that didn't reset. Yeah, it set it off. Where'd it go? We lost it. A little more. All right, so again, same deal here. Yep, setting it off. So with the Glock 17, I'm able to set off these primers by just dropping the sear. With the Glock 43, I wasn't. I did it a bunch of times. And I did it with two different guns. So it might be, I don't know why, it might be that the spring, maybe there's just more tension in the larger frame gun versus the smaller gun. So I don't know. But the Glock 17, and this is a factory Glock 17 except for the housing, failed my test where it was able to set off the primers from the partially cocked position. The Glock 43 passed where it could not. So I'm going to include the rest of the video that I did with the P80, but I think this is what the result is, man. And I will also include the I'm also going to include the Glock 43 video from last week that I did. there's a shelf over here, right? So if you look over here, right? Oops, this thing came out. Let me get something to point with. So if you look over here, okay, this cruciform rests on this shelf over here, right? So here, let me open this up for a second, right? So you see how it has this drop, okay? So what has to happen is normally the cruciform sits up here, and then when you press the trigger back, it drops. So unless it moves back, it can't possibly, it can't go down, okay? So for that reason, with this one over here, right? If I take this pin and I go in there and I try to push down on it, I can't get it to drop, right? Because it's sitting on that safety ledge. So I need to get it to drop. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a Dremel, okay, and I'm going to Dremel out. Gets it back apart. I'm going to Dremel down this safety shelf over here so that it is pretty much almost flush, okay, and that will allow me to stick a rod in there, push down on the cruciform. Oops, get back in the camera. Now allow me to put a rod in here, push down right here on the cruciform, and basically get the the sear, which is the sear back here, get it to release the firing pin lock, okay. So that's how I'm going to defeat that safety, okay? Gustan Glock didn't think I could beat his safeties, but I'm going to beat his safeties, okay? And the next thing we got to do is we got to defeat the firing pin block, okay? So the firing pin block is right there, right? That little thing here. So basically, this is the firing pin lug over here, right? If I push forward on this, right, you can see it won't come through that hole. So I gotta push down on this, and only when this pushes, when I push this in, will it get out of the way so the firing pin so the firing pin will come through the hole. And then if I pull this back, see how it clicks back out. So again, push here. That's not clearing. Gotta push in on that. All right, so you see how that works. So, so basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove the safety plunger, right? And I'm also going to remove the extractor because the two kind of hold each other in place. So the safety pin plunger is coming out, or the safety plunger is coming out. The extractor is coming out. So the only thing that's in here is the firing pin. Okay, so that's easy enough to test. Okay. So the work here is, and it's not that much work, is removing the safety shelf. I'm really surprised like Glock hasn't put out videos of them doing this test, because it's simple enough to do to prove that whether or not the gun can fire from the partially cocked position. This trigger housing here, right? You can get like aftermarket for like $7 to $10. That's all this is over here. So. So that's why I don't mind. I got a whole bag full of these things. I don't mind sacrificing this one trigger housing here for the sake of proving that all Glock 17s, 19s, 26s, 22s cannot fire from the partially cocked position. Okay. Now, interestingly enough, I saw a video that SIG put out where they said, well, these are the 5 steps that need to happen in order for the gun to fire. Yeah, fine, right? These are the 5 steps, but it doesn't mean that they can't happen out of order. So, for example, even with the Glock here, right? As we said over here, I gotta push in on the safety plunger in order to release the firing pin. But let's say that safety plunger gets stuck, right? Let's say dirt or something gets in here and that safety plunger gets stuck in the up position, right? So if it's stuck in the up position, now that firing pin is free to go back and forth, and basically the safety plunger is not working. Now on the Glock, they put it all the way up here as opposed to back here. The reason why I don't like it back here like they have it on the SIG 320 is because there's an opening here with lots of dirt and stuff that can get into this opening here, right? Whereas this, I think this is a much cleaner area up here, all right, as opposed to this big gap over here. So I like how they have it separate. So, all right, everyone, I'm back. Okay, so I took a Dremel to this. It took about, I don't know, like 20 seconds. And I have Dremeled out the safety shelf on this trigger housing, okay? So I have outsmarted Gustav Glock and his safeties, okay? So I just put this in the gun. I'm like, wait a second, why isn't this dropping? And then I remembered that they've got the safety shelf on both sides. They got it here, and they also got it right there. So that's got to go too. Just got to get out of there. All right, so I have defeated the safety shelf. So I can put this rod in the Glock's ass, push down, and you can hear it click. Push down. Okay, so I'm going to show you guys. So the safety shelf was filed down or Dremeled down on this side, and basically chewed up, Dremeled out on that side. Okay. Now I still have the safety plunger in the slide. Okay, safety plunger is still in there. Okay, in the last video, I didn't test the safety plunger because, I mean, I think it's easy enough to test just with your thumb, but a few people in the comments said that they would like to see it tested, so why not? Let's test it. Okay, so I ran back inside and I actually put the safety, I put the slide catch in there. Initially, I didn't put it in there, but I just realized that, you know what, it's a lot easier to lock the gun open and load these cases if I can lock the gun open. Okay, so now I did not remove the safety plunger yet. Okay, so the safety plunger is still in the gun. Okay, so the last time I did this test with the Glock 43, I didn't bother to test the safety plunger. A few people said that they'd like to see it tested. I said, sure, why not? So today, first I'm going to do this test with the safety plunger still in place, and then we're going to remove it. Okay, so I'm going to put the case in there. Okay, I'm going to close it, and now we're going to take this rod. We're going to insert in Gustav Glock's ass over here, and let's see if we get a pop. No pop. Okay, so the safety plunger works. Okay. Okay, no light primer strikes. Nothing. Didn't touch it. Let's do this one more time. Close it. All right. Put the rod in. Push down on the cruciform. Bring it closer so you can hear it. Go click. Oh, nope. There you go. That time. Nothing. Okay. So it's, the trigger stays forward because it's being held in place by the trigger safety, right? But if I press on it, it's just a dead trigger because the basically the sear has already dropped. Okay, let's do this. Let's lock this. All right, let's put this. We're gonna do this one more time. Testing the safety plunger. Okay. All right, come close so you can hear it. I'm gonna put the pin in there. Drop this. Nothing, no pop. And this time I was able to not drop it, and you can see that's interesting. There's a tiny little mark there. I don't know if that was already there. Actually, let me put this on the side for a second. Yeah, it might have looked already, didn't I? This one's got nothing on it. I just want to test that again. curious if it comes forward and just kisses it a little bit. Alright, so same deal. Let's drop it. Okay. Drop the steer. Yeah, that's interesting. So yeah, it does. So even with the safety plunger in place, it just scratches it a tiny little bit. That's interesting. I did not notice. That's why we gotta do these tests. You know, I did not know this. Okay. So you know what? Let's put this one in there. This is the one with the light scratch. All right. This time I'm going to actually press the trigger. Okay. This time I'm going to press the trigger and confirm that the gun actually, you know, but it works normal otherwise, other than the safety shelf removed. Okay. So the gun trigger actually works. Oh, I ejected it. Alright, so it got a normal hit, like you would expect. Alright, no big deal there. Alright, so now I'm going to remove the safety plunger on this. Alright, so that's going to come out. I'm going to go indoors because I don't want to drop parts. We'll be back in a minute. Alright, everyone, this is the main event. Okay, as you can see there, the safety plunger's out, the extractor's also out. Try to get this in better daylight. I had to take both out because the two kind of hold each other in place. So there is no safety plunger in there. Okay. Okay, so this is the main event. Okay. Will this set off a primer from the partially cocked position? We know that the Glock 43 won't do it. Will the 17 do it? All right, so we're going to take a fresh one here. No marks on it. Okay. Okay. And we're going to take the rod and the moment of truth. Push down it. No! No, it did not. It did not. Gustav Glock has not failed us. Oh, there's no extractor in there now, so there's no extractor in there. So I have to manually let him fall out. Get in focus. So light primer strike, which is exactly what the Glock 43 did. We're gonna actually fire this. Okay. Now I'm gonna put my finger on my trigger. I'll do it left so you guys can see it. Okay. So yeah, I have to pull them out like that. I think I got one more here that has no marks on it. Okay, pristine, no marks. Just put that in there. Close it. Okay, make sure it's fully seated. Okay. All right, come on, Gustav Glock, don't fail me now. All right, take the rod, shove it in his ass, push down, come close so you can hear the click. Oh shit, that time it set it off. That time it set it off. So that's interesting. That time the light primer strike. Now this is interesting. Let's look at this primer. This primer here, when I sat it, looks like it's not quite flush. See how it catches there? So that would be a reason why it would set it off. So if the primer's not fully seated and it's sticking out a little bit, that light kiss might set it off. Actually, I got another one here. This one looks like it's flush. Yeah, this one looks like it's flush. Let's test this one out. Okay. All right, same test, right? We're going to push down on that cruciform. I'll bring it close. Yeah, it set it off. So that's interesting. The 43 is not setting them off. The Glock 43 is not setting them off. The 17 is. I'm actually a little disappointed in this. I mean, the results are what they are, man. Oh, here's another one. There's no scratch on this one. The results are what they are. And these are the same primers I used for the Glock 43 when I tested it. All right, same thing. Let's push down on this. Yeah, it's setting them off. Got one last one. This one has a scratch on it from before. Tiny little scratch. That's the one that we tested with the what do you call it? The safety plunger in place, where apparently it did still come through just enough to just scratch it a little bit. All right, push it down. Yeah, it's doing it. So that's what it is, man. I mean, the results don't lie. I mean, the 43, the Glock 43, I tested that a bunch of times, and that didn't set off the primers. This 17, it didn't set it off once. Maybe that primer was set in a little bit deeper, and that's why it didn't set it off. But these are, the 17 is setting them off. And again, these are the same exact primers from the same exact box. I tested the Glock 43 the other day. Yeah, just give you guys a closer look here. Nothing in there, right? So let's lock this open. I'm going to take one of these cases. All right, I'm going to put it in there. I'm going to close it, okay? And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this 1/8 punch, and I'm going to just drop that sear. You heard that click? Nothing. Did not set it off. There's no extractor here, so I gotta. Well, that's interesting. It didn't even kiss it. Earlier, it was like kissing it. Let's do this again. Put that in there. Close it. Gonna push down on it. I can see that the firing pin has moved forward. Right, we can see it through the hole. Oh yeah, actually there was a tiny little. This time it just nicked it a little bit. It might be an issue with like when I sat this, because this one seems to have less of a mark than the earlier ones I did. It might have been that when I seated this, maybe it went a little bit deeper. Let's take this same one. We're going to put it in there, and this time I'm actually going to pull the trigger. Okay, so now I'm going to pull the trigger. Okay? That time, it fully impacted the primer, and it set it off. Let's do one more. Again, this is the second gun. I'm actually going to put this video at the beginning of the video, even though it's second, just because it gets kind of straight to the point. So I'm going to close this, okay, all the way forward. Take this, I'm going to push down on that sear. Nope. Right, sear drop. Yeah, this one left a little bit more. All right, so now I'm going to take the same one. I'm going to put it in there. Okay, I'm going to press, and now I'm actually going to press the trigger all the way back. Works. All right, let's see how that's been hit. We're going to do one more. Okay. So again, these are CCI primers. Close it, push it, make sure it's all the way forward. Take this, push down on it, bring it close so you can hear the click. Nope, nothing there. Click, no bang, no pop. Push that out. Right there. Really light strike. Put this in there. Now I'm actually going to press trigger. I'll do left so you can see it. That's it. I just want to clarify that the pass or fail that you see me saying in the video is specific to this test that I have devised after defeating the safety mechanisms. Okay, it doesn't mean that the gun is not good. I mean, like I said earlier, I carry a Glock 43 even after having done these tests. I'm going to say that the idea that the partially cocked Glock cannot ignite a primer is a myth that has been busted, and that's for both the Glock 17 and the Glock 43. Even though in most cases the Glock 43 could not ignite the primer. The reason I say that is because Glock didn't design it that way. And that's not something that I feel that you can rely on. You can't depend on that. However, you can depend on all the other safety features that Glock has built into this design.